There it is.
Good evening. We're coming to you live.
I'm just making sure it was counting.
We're recording. Coming to you live from the garage tonight for episode 12 of the Freshman Parking Lot. Brian Bosch, got Brad Geffert, and Justin Fry. Super excited to come to you all together. I don't know. What do you guys got?
We're live and we're in person and we're fully staffed. So after
Fully staffed.
Feels good.
2 weeks of not having everybody with us, a week off, and then a short episode last week with just Brian and I, and Justin celebrating a birthday. How'd your birthday celebration go?
It was good. It wasn't my birthday. It was my son's birthday. It was a great day.
It's even better than yours.
Absolutely.
You
I don't want to get older.
No, you're good.
Hey, but how was your day today?
My day today was great.
Would you say your day was better than our day?
You sat in meetings. I played golf today. Okay. I played golf for the second time this week. It's been a great week.
That's
nice.
a rough life you live.
All right.
Someone's got to do it.
What'd you shoot today? We don't want to talk
47, 48, one of those two numbers.
Oh, it's not bad.
Sub 50 and
It's
9.
not great.
You would have been under 100 if you went around again.
No, I usually go down last night.
That's why I don't play at 18.
All right. Hey, speaking of golf, I know Jared Terpstra listens to us weekly, and he was all about wanting a golf shout-out this week, but there was nothing notable last week in golf. So we're just going to bypass that. Maybe the FedEx Open this week gives us something to talk about next week, Jared. And maybe if we go back Zoom, you can come in for good 15 seconds of golf update for us.
Also, I got a friend request from somebody named Jared Terpstra on Facebook. I was like, I don't know who this guy is.
He's an avid listener.
Okay, well, now I'll confirm. I don't just let anybody in on the Facebook Live. And
all right.
Jared his profile picture, he's standing on a golf cart that's like a scooter.
Okay.
This guy's the real deal.
For sure. He's a good golfer. Okay. He could all teach us something. And B, he posted that last week. And my only reply was, I don't know if that's the coolest thing in the world or the dorkiest thing in the world.
It's both.
It was like this Segway with that held your bags on it, and you just like went down the fairway with it. So I don't know where that was at. Maybe you can tell us about it someday.
Has he ever taken that thing out to the mounds? The mounds is hilly and steep.
That would be awesome.
Segway down the steep hill.
No, it's like a kid's scooter.
Oh, okay.
It's like a kid's scooter. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
So.
All right, fair enough.
All right, so there's our. I guess we gave it almost a full minute of golf. So, we're good. We've met quota for the month.
It wasn't
golf
just
talk.
about golf. It was about Jared Terpstra.
Sure.
All right.
But anyway, so today we're gonna rock with a little bit around some current events in sports, but also we have some fun planned for the end of the episode as well. So,
how about just how great is live baseball?
Phenomenal.
Well, the fact that we actually have live sports in general on a nightly basis now is just amazing.
Now, we are still in kind of a weird spot. Before you guys came over, I was watching on one channel the Astros and the Dodgers, which we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. But on ESPN2, we were still watching big fat guys in their parents' basement playing NBA 2K against each other.
Yeah.
So we're still in a little bit of a weird sports spot.
Well, that's because not everything's back.
Not yet.
Right.
We're getting there, right?
Baseball. They got basketball this
But
week.
baseball back.
Baseball's back.
Basketball will be back.
Basketball starts what? I think the first 2 regular season
Tomorrow.
games are tomorrow night.
Tomorrow.
The Bucks tipping off on
I'm
Friday.
going to miss them.
So,
But you're right, Brian. Baseball this weekend was phenomenal, and for me to sit down on Friday night and watch the first baseball games that mean something, it felt like summer again. Just the natural rhythm of life for me felt like things are kind of back to normal. Even though we've got computer people in the stands or cardboard people in the stands, it was really just kind of soothing and relaxing.
And
I loved it.
So Friday night we had a road baseball game, youth baseball, and listened to Bob Uecker on the way over. The first 3 innings, and the Brewers were down in Chicago playing the Cubs, and Bob Uecker's at Miller Park doing the game from the press box, and he spent the first 3 innings, probably more. I stopped listening after 3 innings, explaining the process, and he's really struggling with it. By the way, this is his 50th year.
Yeah.
So he spent the first 3 innings of his 50th season talking about the 7 or 8 monitors and how they're not synced up and he can't follow the ball. And it was just classic Uecker about something that he or any of us probably never thought he'd experience in his career.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
And I listened to the game on Saturday. I watched the first part of the game and then listened to the second part of the game and on the radio. And he was talking about the ball would be hit and he would instinctively look out in the outfield.
Sure.
And he saw the sprinklers going
Yeah.
in the outfield, watering the field at Miller Park. So,
Yeah. So it's been great watching baseball. We would all agree about that.
by the way, can we say
100%.
Miller Park? Is that legal?
It's still Miller Park. Isn't
This
it?
is the last
This
year.
is
Oh,
the
last
year.
season. All
So
right,
we're still good.
We're good. Okay. I want to make sure we
I think
were
we're going to say it next year too.
I think so.
probably.
So great to watch baseball, but obviously there are issues.
There
Think
are
of, Think of the
issues.
Florida Marlins with the 17 or 18 COVID cases, and their
Speaking of
schedule was shut down.
can we say Florida Marlins?
Did I say Florida Marlins?
You did.
I'm sorry.
Miami.
Marlins. Showing my age. So what do you guys think about how that whole situation played out where 3 guys on the team tested positive, I believe, on Saturday, and the team still showed up on Sunday to play? Are you guys down with that protocol?
Well,
is that appropriate?
The problem is they don't have a protocol.
Okay.
Whoa. Rob Manfred said the protocol is adequate.
They said the protocols is up to the team, and the stories that I read is they asked their shortstop quasi-captain if they wanted to go out and play on Sunday.
Weird.
I have a problem.
Yeah.
And for anybody who doesn't think this is a real thing, in the course of a weekend, we've gone from 3 to 16 players and 2 other coaches out of 30 players. 16 out of 30 players. It's a rather infectious thing.
Correct. Now, I have heard some people, tell me what you guys think of this. I've heard some commentators, and this was on the radio, say, okay, 3 Marlins got sick, 16 Marlins got sick, so what? They're young guys, they're athletes, they're literally the players with the lowest risk of having anything unfortunate happen to them because of COVID-19.
Except for
So how do you respond to that?
Who they might pass it on to
Oh,
is
there
a
you go.
problem.
Okay. That was my test. I just want to make sure you were paying attention earlier in the weeks.
One real surprise to me, and maybe it's the social distance aspect of baseball, is no Phillies have tested positive, who they were playing against.
Mm-hmm.
And they've tested every day since the weekend as well,
Right.
and none of them have tested positive.
Well, it's similar. I listened to a Dr. Chow who works with the NFL, and he talked about how there's a greater chance of getting it during the week of practice or on the way to the game or eating at the mess than there is actually playing in competition in a football game. So it's all the stuff leading up to it. You know, if you look at it in high school sports, you know, the bus ride there versus the actual playing when you're there. So it's not so much the act of the sport as all the activity that goes around that sport.
Yeah.
The training room,
Yeah.
the eating, the traveling together.
I think that makes sense because for everything I've understood, there's like a critical dose, if you will, of viruses you need to get into your body before it takes over.
Sure.
And if you're playing first base and I hit a single, we're closer than 6 feet to one another, but not for very long.
Not
And the
for very
chances
long.
of me getting that critical dose of virus from you is pretty small.
I like
compared to riding in the airplane for
sure.
2 hours and then on the team bus, at the team meal at the hotel, etc.
And it's way less likely when you have nice guys like Anthony Rizzo handing out hand sanitizer at
That was
first base.
Oh. Hey, speaking of not so nice
Not
guys,
so nice.
we got a little Dodgers Astros.
Ooh.
That was awesome, you guys.
What part of it was awesome?
That the Astros got what they had coming to them.
Yes.
That part was awesome. What I didn't like is 96 at somebody's head.
Mm-hmm.
I think 96 to the ribs is good.
I don't know. I don't want my...
No, but what I'm saying is that's acceptable. Throw a curveball at somebody, throw something in their backside, throw something in their ribs. 96 at the head is a little something else.
So you're old school.
Well, I'm a
You
baseball
like
guy.
throwing at other guys.
If they deserve it,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll tell you this.
We've done that before.
Yeah.
Not in my job as a high school coach, but
Right.
in my life as a baseball, yes, we've done that before.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on an 8-game suspension out of 60?
It's terrible.
Equivalent to 22 in a full season.
It's terrible. First off, he never hit anybody.
He didn't.
He never hit anybody. Second off, the Astros, none of the players were penalized themselves for cheating.
Correct.
It was just the team, the GM and the manager.
Correct.
So that's a baloney way to hand out, I think, any kind of penalties for this. And I'm not an old school guy. I do not like baseball players thrown at each other. But like you, I was glad that the Astros got thrown at. And if you're an Astro right now, the best thing you can do is sit down, take your medicine, because you know you cheated. You should just come out and say, you know what, we cheated, we deserve to be thrown at, and we're sorry. If they would show a little bit of that kind of remorse, then the game would move on.
And honestly, I felt like they did that last night until Joe Kelly started making faces and talking, walking off the field. I think getting thrown at, they're like, yep, we knew this was coming. It is what it is. We're going to take our medicine. And then he took it a step further.
All right.
And speaking of penalties, Dusty Baker's the manager of the Astros.
Yep.
He got fined in this whole deal.
Really?
How does he?
Because of his press conference?
I didn't see that part. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe that.
He swore at the
Okay.
other guy.
All right.
Good. I didn't see that.
So, before we leave this topic, just real quick. Should the Astros throw now back at the Dodgers?
No, they can't. Because then
Do you
it's
think they
never
will?
gonna end.
Well, that game's going on right now. We were watching a little bit of it beforehand, and I don't think they did today.
But it was 1-1.
It was
if
1-1.
the Astros are up 5-1 in the 8th inning, do they throw at a Dodger?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't think they should.
I don't think
Right.
they should, because I think all of a sudden, even they understand those unwritten rules. Like, now we're even.
Yeah.
Even though we got a ring and you don't.
With an asterisk.
Yes.
All right. Hey, you said take your medicine. Unfortunately, there's not a medicine right now for COVID. So we've got. And if there is, right away I said. Justin talked about a vaccine and that he's on the first dose of it, and I want to have the second dose.
We've
after
let them sponsor the show.
Absolutely.
Sure. Whoever comes up with
Yeah.
the COVID cure.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Give it to me, Doc.
You get a sign up top to go with Rooney's Nursery. So thank you tonight for Rooney's Nursery helping us out. But because there's now, NFL is hopefully going to start up. Their players are reporting, and some players aren't reporting. If you're a Packers fan, Devin Funches, wide receiver, you name an NFL team, and there's guys that are now not reporting due to COVID.
Jeez, it's unfortunate that a wide receiver, maybe they could have drafted one. Oh, never mind.
Ouch. Don't worry, I just saw
Somebody's
that.
got to rub this in.
I just saw that Packers receiver Alan Lazard was like the 4th highest rated one-on-one receiver in the NFL last year. I don't know where that came from, like Pro Football Stats or something, but I don't know, whatever makes Aaron Rodgers feel happy that he's got a receiver to throw to, awesome.
Yeah.
Alan Lazard MVP, go for it. Anyways, we have players not reporting. If you guys were in that position as a major league player or an NFL player, knowing you're not in a bubble, knowing that your risk level is higher as a football player than a basketball or baseball player, and you possess those skills, which none of us possess any NFL skills. Maybe a kicker.
I could potentially be the water boy.
Okay, fair enough. Would you be reporting, or how do you feel about some players not reporting to camp?
I think it would really depend on my personal situation. Am I a veteran with already a bunch of money that I've accumulated through the years? Or am I a young guy worried about keeping a position on a team? Do I have a baby on the way, young children at home, grandparents living in my house? I think it really comes down to a person-by-person choice. And for the people that made that decision, more power to you.
Is it too simple to say that, we are in that position? We have a job that we're about to report to in a few weeks, and if we don't feel safe, we're probably in a harder position than them from two standpoints. We don't make millions of dollars, and my job might not be waiting for me next year when
Sure.
I decide it's safe to go back.
Right.
But if I don't feel safe to go back, I have to find something else to do.
Sure.
So I guess I don't have a problem with anybody doing what they think they need to do, but there are life consequences and ramifications that go with that.
Sure.
I think it's obviously a tough situation, and I think Brian and I talked earlier that any decision that any person makes right now regarding COVID, in my mind, is the right decision. I don't think there's a wrong decision unless you're hosting COVID parties.
That's the wrong decision.
That's the wrong decision, all right? So just full disclaimer, that is wrong and should not be replicated. But beyond that, I don't
Anything
begrudge.
goes.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge anybody for
No.
what decision they make.
Not at all. I think
if
it'd be really interesting to see what happens to different teams if the season happens.
Sure.
See what happens with different teams and players that opt out, players that get sick. It'll be interesting to watch.
Well, I think it's more interesting to see how when players get sick, because they're going to.
Absolutely
And
going
maybe
to.
not even sick, they're just going to be positive.
Yes.
And maybe asymptomatic, maybe symptomatic, who knows. And how, so many professional football rosters change over frequently during the season anyways, for a lot of different reasons, and this just gives one more. Kind of similar to the baseball situation right now, they're holding more players on their rosters, and they have access to other players for COVID. But I was just watching that there's a team that ran out of catchers already.
Yeah.
Right? So they're going into that extra bag to pull out more players.
And the catchers was a specific part of this. You have to have this many.
Okay.
Correct.
So can I go back to the Marlins for a second then, that you mentioned extra players? Doesn't every Major League Baseball team have 30 players on standby somewhere?
Correct.
Yes.
Why weren't the Marlins forced to go into that group of 30 to field the team? If they're not going to do that, what's the purpose of having them?
I think they're worried about the other players that are on staff already
Got it.
being
Okay.
positive as well.
Because
So they
you
need
probably
to wait.
wouldn't take all 30 of your taxi squad. You'd probably say, well, if 16 infected, we want to keep those other 14, but how do we know
So,
if they're infected?
yeah, I don't know. I guess to me it seems like they're never going to use those standby players. Let's say 2 guys come down with COVID. Are they going to kick those 2 guys off and just bring 2 guys in?
I think that's like on opening night when the Nationals found out about Juan Soto. I think that's
Yeah.
what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It seems like a kind of I don't want to say glorified because it's probably the opposite of glorified, but a minor league system
Yeah.
without a system and without games.
Oh.
Okay.
Speaking of games or no games, something that hits us closer to home is WIAC announced on Monday night. That's the state colleges in the state of Wisconsin announced fall sports schedule being canceled with hopefully maybe non-conference in some sports and a couple other sports moving to the springtime.
Yeah.
Being WIAC guys in this room or garage tonight, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about the golfers not having a chance to participate in their sport this fall.
So women's golf and women's tennis are the 2 that got moved to the spring.
Correct.
The other ones, as of right now, are canceled.
Right.
Correct.
I think it makes sense. Those are small schools with not big athletic budgets. How do you pay for the COVID testing?
And that's what I
But
heard
I'm
was the
saddened
biggest
about
deal,
it.
was the cost of the testing.
Yeah. If you're in a sport like I participated in the WIAC, you run cross country in the fall and then you run indoor track in the winter and outdoor track in the spring. So you lose your cross country season, but you're kind of doing the same thing if sports come back in the winter and the spring. You're racing at least. It's a different kind of racing, but you're still racing. But what do you do for the football players? That's just done, I think.
Right.
They're unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. And I talked, and the reason why this was on my radar coming in is earlier in the day on Monday, I talked to a local cross-country runner that's going to be running in college, and she had such a great attitude about it, saying like, hey, I'd be disappointed if it got canceled. There's a big meeting today, and we're going to an announcement today. I hope we have a season, but if not, I get it. We're in a pandemic, and had a really good positive attitude. I just don't know if, as an athlete, if I would have been able to have that good of an attitude going into knowing that my season may be canceled for if it's my freshman year in college or my senior year in college. It just, I think, would have been really disappointing, and I definitely wouldn't have taken it as well as I've heard others take it at this time.
I think part of that might be sport by sport. You played football. I think that's different in that if you're a cross-country runner, you can still go outside every day on your own as an individual and work out and see and feel progress in your body.
Yep.
It's harder when you play a team sport like football to have those same kind of experiences without a season in place.
Sure.
Especially a sport like football.
Yeah.
Yep. Does that exhaust our list of topics?
We had football training camps, but we're kind of
covered
we're
that.
kind of in there.
Well, I have a great segue to my win in Rome for the week.
All
Let's
right,
hear it.
let's hear it.
Okay, so you kind of already answered how you're going to answer a couple of minutes ago.
Okay.
WIAC, WIAC or WIAC?
WIAC.
You're both wrong, and you can get out of my garage.
Well, it's clear that you're from Minnesota.
Right, because we have the MIAC, that's the MIAC.
There you go.
And I played baseball in the WIAC.
It's the WIAC,
It's
and
WIAC.
it always has been the WIAC.
The WIAC, okay. Shortest win in Rome ever, because you're both
All
wrong.
right.
I've got more for next week.
All right, so I've got one, and I changed it a little bit because you were talking about taking a 96-mile-an-hour pitch to the ribs.
Okay.
But the talk this last week was Mike Tyson making a comeback, right?
Yes.
We got Mike Tyson.
He looks good, by the way. He looks good.
I mean, yeah.
He's
I mean,
56 or 54.
yeah.
He's fortunate enough to have 2 ears. I mean, it's not a Vander Holyfield I'm talking about now.
Corey
So-
Vander can't wear a mask, it keeps falling off.
All right. So, would you rather take a punch to the face from Mike Tyson or a 96-mile-an-hour pitch to the ribs? And I was going to say Aroldis Chapman fastball to anywhere below the neck, and you don't know where it's going to hit. But since you brought up the ribs, we're going to pinpoint the ribs
Okay.
or a Mike Tyson punch to the face.
Okay. Go.
I'm going fastball to the ribs. The idea of a man as big as Mike Tyson standing close enough to me that he can hit me in my face as hard as he can is maybe the most terrifying thing I can think of. At least with the baseball, you see it released, there's a split second of time. I feel like that I'm a little more comfortable with that distance than with
You're not
that punch
protecting
to my face.
yourself.
No, I'm not going to protect it. I'm just taking it. I think I'm taking it to the ribs. To the face, that seems really... Ooh.
I'm envisioning you like in Happy Gilmore when he just jumps in front
Yeah.
and he starts taking the balls out of the...
Let's be clear. In either one of these scenarios, I break.
Well, neither one of them feel good. Okay? But it's the fastball to the ribs for a couple of reasons. Number one, you won't die. You could die if Mike Tyson hits you in the face.
Oh, see, I totally disagree.
You could die.
No,
Number
punctured
two,
rib into the lungs.
Something good happens when I get hit by a pitch. Nothing good happens when I get hit in the face.
Okay, so you're going to take your walk.
Unless you go three rounds. Then maybe you get your payday.
Okay.
That's not happening.
I'm not going 3 seconds. I can't run that fast.
And see, I think I'm going Mike Tyson.
Wow.
I'm going to take the... Because one, I've had bruised ribs before, and they were terrible.
Okay.
A broken rib sounds beyond terrible here. Two is, I think I can absorb some of the punch as it's coming.
This guy is crazy. You
And-
and Mike Tyson.
And how many people can tell the story about getting punched by Mike Tyson?
Okay.
You and the guy on The Hangover.
That's fine. I'm going to completely. That's going to like be on my tombstone. Or maybe I'd say survive the punch from Mike Tyson.
Oh, that's
Maybe
why
not.
you have a tombstone.
Maybe. So
Mike Tyson can open up a booth in Vegas and sell T-shirts.
Yes.
I got punched by Mike Tyson.
Yes.
My
Do you
Damn.
think we could go live from Vegas at some point?
that would be fun.
I've never been.
can we write it off as a tax expense?
If we made money from this damn thing.
Right.
So write it
Come on,
off.
people, start watching. Just put it on a loop.
All right. Well, I got a Did You Know for this week. And as I was thinking about what am I going to talk about for Did You Know, I thought about the Toronto Blue Jays and the fact that they can't play baseball in their home stadium.
Yeah.
They tried, Canada said, we're not letting other people come in. They tried to go to Pittsburgh. The state of Pennsylvania said, no, 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 no. They tried to go to Baltimore. The team doctors for the Baltimore Orioles said, we don't think it's safe for a stadium to host 2 teams, so they ended up in Buffalo. So that got me thinking.
Are they going to play games in Buffalo?
Starting August 11th.
Okay.
They're going to play games in Buffalo at the AAA Stadium. They've got a few days here to kind of work out some things with the field to make it major league ready.
Lights?
I don't think that includes the lights.
Okay.
But I could be wrong.
Play day games. They're more fun.
So
anyways.
that got me thinking about teams that played seasons in ballparks other than their own home ballpark.
Okay.
So I started to do a little
I've got
bit
a
of
couple.
research, and that led me down this path where I learned that the house that Ruth built was once owned by Rice.
By what?
By Rice.
Rice University.
Now that's a really strange sentence, isn't it?
Yep.
Think about that. If you're learning the English language, like, oh, the house that Ruth built was once owned by Rice. You're like, what the heck? There's a woman named Ruth. She had a house. It was owned by a grain. What's going on? No, it was owned by Rice University.
In Texas.
In Texas. So Rice University is in Houston, Texas, and they used to own Yankee Stadium.
Great baseball program, by the way, at Rice University.
Absolutely. They owned it through kind of the early 60s through the early 70s. There was
Not even the beginning of its existence.
No,
like
it was
in the
built.
middle.
It was built in 1923.
Yeah.
It was
So they bought it.
it was given to them. There was an alumni who purchased the stadium. He gave it to the university. They had it for about 10 years.
Awesome.
Did they
Yeah.
profit off of it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
At the end of the 10 years, they sold the stadium to the city of New York City because it was falling apart. It was crumbling. It's 50-some years old at this point, right? 1972 when they sell it. Chunks of concrete are reported to be falling
Sounds like Wrigley.
right out of the stadium. So the city buys it, and they go on a 2-year renovation process. So in 1974 and 1975, the New York Yankees played all of their home games at Shea Stadium across town. Which brings up just kind of some interesting things.
I
Like,
didn't know that, and I also didn't know the renovation was that recent.
yeah.
Okay.
And so that brings up some interesting things. Like in 1974 and 1975, the Yankees had a manager by the name of Bill Verdon. He managed 266 Yankees games. Never once did he manage a game at Yankee Stadium.
Okay.
That brings up Catfish Hunter, this legendary Hall of Fame pitcher. He played for the Oakland A's, and he was one of the first big free agent signings of the Yankees, because free agency is just getting started back then. He played his entire career in the American League. Entire career in the American League. But he has 22 starts at Shea Stadium.
Oh!
Which I think is interesting.
Absolutely.
And then, I don't have a clip to play for you tonight, but sometime when you get a chance, you got to YouTube a clip from June 10th, 1975, Walter Cronkite. On June 10th, 1975, the New York Yankees are hosting the California Angels at Shea Stadium. And to honor the 200th anniversary of the United States Army, they bring in a cannon, which is going to fire off some blanks. So they roll the cannon out to the outfield track,
What could go wrong?
and they light it off, and boom, there goes the blank. It blows a giant hole through the outfield fence, starts the fence on fire.
Was it disco demolition night?
No. That night, signing off on his newscast, Walter Cronkite, he tells the story, and he signs off saying, and the final score in the game, New York 6, Angels 4, Army 21, fence nothing. One of the greatest ways to put a little baseball line on there. So there you go. Did you know that the house that Ruth built was once owned by Rice?
Like it.
And the other one, I knew that New York was displaced for a while. And then the Chicago Bears played a season at the University of Illinois.
Yes.
Very recently.
Yeah.
Very recent, just probably in the last...
In the 90s or
Yeah.
late 90s, early 2000s.
There are lots of cases where that happens, like for short periods.
And the-
It's a bit more rare for full seasons.
So
but
the
it happens.
Vikings did at TCF Bank.
Correct.
It might have been a full season. It was for sure to finish when the dome imploded.
Yep.
But then when they were building the new one, it might have been a full
Yep.
season at
Yeah.
the Gopher Stadium.
So there's some other interesting ones too, like in 1968 and 69, the White Sox came up to Milwaukee, and they played a home game against every other American League team. And it was a way for, Bud Selig was part of this, who used to be a minority owner of the Braves, to kind of bring baseball back to...
before...
before the
Gotcha.
Brewers showed up in 1970.
Yep.
So,
Interesting.
Do you guys remember, it was probably 15 years ago when Cleveland started the season with a big blizzard,
Yeah.
and they hosted the Angels in Miller Park. I went
Yes.
to 2 of those games.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
My brother Riley and his buddies drove up from St. Thomas in the WIAC, and my brother's...
Is he the tattoo artist, by the way?
Nope, other brother.
All right. I'm still waiting for my hat. I'm sorry.
He's waiting for it.
Interestingly, both of your brothers use needles.
They do. And extra safety precautions right now.
Yeah, right.
But when we went out to the parking lot, my brother's car had a dead battery because he left the lights on.
Oh, no.
It's baby brothers. Can I do a quick, did you know?
Hey, please.
This is the first Major League season since 1954 that after 3 games, every single team had a win. Nobody started 0-3.
Okay.
Nice.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's cool.
Good one to end on tonight.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, episode 12 of the Freshman Parking Lot is sponsored by Rooney's Nursery. Rooney's Nursery in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Special place in my heart. That's where I spent a lot of my time growing up. My grandpa is or was the owner of Rooney's Nursery, and so they're the sponsor tonight. That came off his pickup truck. And let's see, what else? You can follow the show at Frosh Parking Lot on Twitter. You can email the show, freshmanparkinglot@gmail.com. And the Facebook group has been pretty popular. Apparently that means that we're old enough that we're in the Facebook demographic now.
all right.
So if you would like to join the Facebook group, get a hold of Brad or I on Facebook, and we'll get you in there. I don't know, we missing anything?
YouTube, listen,
yeah.
subscribe, and increase our viewership on YouTube so we can get paid for this.
Yeah, play that shit on a loop.
Have a good one, guys. Thank you.